Before we get into today's episode, I wanted to just say a big thank you to everyone who has commented on my videos before. My dad and I have sat down a couple of times in a very informal manner and just had conversations, and the comments have always been amazing. And this has encouraged us to make a weekly podcast. So today is episode one of hopefully a long standing podcast that we're going to do every single week together. The way that we're going to try to work this is encourage you all to ask your questions in the comments section of each of our videos. And every single week, we're going to pick out a couple of the best questions and then we're going to answer them in the following week's podcast. So please, if you have any questions related to meditation, your spiritual path, growing personally, feel free to ask them in the comments section below and we'll talk about them in the following week. I also want to encourage you, if you could, and if you're not already, to subscribe to the channel. It really helps YouTube to know that this is a channel that's worthy of promoting to more people, and it helps us to be able to do this long term. So thank you so much, and I hope you enjoy today's episode. So you've been in high demand, Dad.
Why?
People
Why?
have been asking to see a lot of you after we've done a couple of these casual conversations. So
I'm not taking my clothes off.
as you know, as you know, you're in high demand, and for that and spiritual questions. So, but we'll stick with the spiritual questions
If
today.
you
So
would.
you're safe. Yeah, you're safe. The first one, which I have summarized, and I thought we'd just get straight into the questions. The first one, and we can discuss these, was how can I balance my spiritual calling with practical demands of a 9 to 5 job when all I want to do is meditate?
Well, I find that starving to death is a pretty good motivator because you've got to earn a living in this life. You've got to be able to provide shelter and food and the basics of
Mm,
life for yourself. So on the very basic level, you have to work. And it's interesting because Mother Mira talks about this, and she says that she's quite pragmatic about it, as she is with so many things. And she says, I
mm,
work, so you've got to work. And I think that the for me anyway, and I'm interested to hear your thoughts on it. But for me, the trick of the ego sometimes is to try and mess you up by pulling you away from the grounding things that keep you going. And we're we live this life and we learn through this life. We learn through the 9 to 5. The meditation's nice. It's great. And you can, build up things, but don't think that that's the only way to develop in this life, because it isn't. We're here for a reason, and you learn from your interactions with people. You see your mistakes, the things you do wrong. You see things in them that you aspire to be better at. And, to
mm.
just fall into meditation and just spend the rest of your life in meditation is to miss what the point of life is, really. I mean, that's what I
Mm.
think. What's your thoughts?
Load of nonsense. No, I'm joking. I like what the Shivapuri Baba says about the duties.
Yeah. The Dharma.
He
Yeah.
talks about the duties. He's like, we've got different duties. We've got a duty for the body, to feed the body, to keep it healthy, to sleep. We've got family, perhaps family duties. We've got, if we're in society, then we've got societal duties. And he calls it a professional duty, which I really like. I really like that term, professional duty, because then it doesn't seem like work can sometimes sound like something that you've got to do that you don't want to do. Professional duty, it may come across like that to some people, but I quite like that term because to me it feels like something that I can provide. And it doesn't matter what you are providing something to society. You're using your skill set in a way that's going to hopefully be of help to people. Even if it doesn't seem apparent on the surface, you're of help to people. So I
Without
like
a
that
doubt.
term. And I also like the idea, like touching on your point, that the world is a mirror. And when we interact with the world, we learn about what aspects of ourselves need to be worked on as well through
Mm.
how people trigger us and things like that, which you probably, I'm sure, in fact, I'm sure you would get that if you're in a cave because that would bring its own challenges, but it's
Without a
exposed
doubt.
in different
Without a
ways.
doubt. Yeah, without a doubt. I think also it's I don't think there are many people who can really do that. I don't think
I
there are
think
many
it's so
people
hard.
who could sit down and meditate for 10 hours a day and just lose them in the same amount of time they would be working normally, just lose themselves in meditation. I don't think they could do it because I think the same not weakness, but the same thing that wants to spin them away from working in a normal life and doing normal things and meditating as well and developing it all together is going to pull them out. If they tried to do that, it's going to pull the rug from under them if they tried to do that. And there'd be no ground for them then to work from. It'd be very difficult. I
Mm,
mean, you've got what you've got to do is the right thing to do is, you've got 8 hours a day to work, well, roughly. Some people work more, but or less. You've got 8 hours of sleep, and then you've got 8 hours then to do what you want to do, be with your family, do some meditating, spend some time on yourself and with God, um, and just work on yourself in that period. And that's enough. It is enough time, really. And also work itself. A lot of people say this because they don't like their jobs. They say,
mm.
oh, I want to lose myself in meditation. But I remember Daya said to me once about working, and he said, if your job doesn't make you happy, try and find a way to enjoy your job. And it's there if you look for it. There's a way of, enjoying your job, making fun while you're at work, having an
Mm.
enjoyable time. If you're looking for it, you'll find it. Not you can't do it all the while. Obviously, there's going to be days that are awful, like for everything. But there'll be days that are difficult when you meditate. So, but
And
yeah,
that's if you think about that, what you said about the 8 hours of sleep, rough, let's just say 8 hours sleep, 8 hours work, 8 hours spare. If you think that, do you actually use the 8 hours spare that you've got
exactly.
properly?
Yeah,
You
exactly.
don't. Most people probably spend a lot of it watching TV, on the phone, doing things that aren't useful. And if you're not even able to use the free time that you've got around work and dedicate yourself to meditation in that time, there's no chance that you're going to be able to do it if you didn't have any work. You're adding a lot more time on. It's just not
You'd
going to
have
be
to have a
possible.
tremendous work ethic, wouldn't you? Really, to
Yeah,
push yourself through.
yeah. But I think it's an interesting one. And to summarize that, what would you say? We've got to work. Most people need to work to earn money and provide. And perhaps it's a bit of a reframing in how you see the work. Perhaps looking at the work as if it's actually you being of service to the divine.
Yeah, exactly. You know, th- you have to be honest, and to live. If you've got a family, if you've got responsibilities, you can't just drop them and just go off and meditate. Well, you can, but it's not the right thing to do. And karmically, it's not the right thing to do either. Let's be
Mm,
honest. If you've got young kids or partner, if you just dump them and wander off, you're being selfish. Yeah, and you're not missing out on anything either because you can learn, with the same dedication, you can move as quick in normal life. I believe that very much. If you're looking day to day, if you're looking for the divine, if you're looking for things to do right, if you're in the moment, that's meditation, isn't it? That if you're in the moment and you're actually trying to achieve things in the moment and trying to, you're talking to God while you're working, or you're not out loud, obviously, because you get sacked. But if you're still communicating, if you're mantring during, you're doing something at work that's a bit repetitive, you drop into mantra. There's a million and one ways you can connect if you want to,
during work.
without chucking everything in and, like you say, going off to a cave and then probably finding out you actually hate that as well.
Yeah, yeah. And I think their question after that was, how can I stay spiritually aligned and compassionate while navigating the world where people can be cold, indifferent, and self serving?
Mm. Well, it can be difficult. There's a couple of things here, really. One is touching back on what you said earlier, which was reflecting back on something that I'd said, which is life reflects. So if you've got a lot of people being cold and unkind to you, sometimes that can be something in you that's bringing that out, or you know, it, it's worth going into that. It's worth really leaning into that and finding and asking some deep questions and seeing if there is something about you that's causing that, especially if it's happening with a lot of different people. But also, the other thing I would say on that is we only have autonomy over ourselves. I can't change your perception and thinking. You're going to think, we can talk over things and but I can't change the way you behave. Um, so I only have autonomy of myself. So what I have to do is, if that's the situation, I have to change the way I react to it. You know, if somebody's being cold or indifferent or something like that, change it. Talk to them. Try and bring it around, and that's the way to be spiritually aligned. It's to go into it rather than avoid it, rather than complain about it. Actually go into it and try and get to the bottom of it. And with warmth and compassion, and up to the point that if you've tried all that and then people are still cold and unkind, then maybe that's just their nature, and you need to leave them behind a little bit. What do you
I think,
think?
yeah, I agree. I agree. I think it's good to always be look at yourself when you're feeling that way. When you're feeling angry or frustrated or any kind of thing that you don't like, rather than put the responsibility externally, look first at
Start with
yourself
you.
and say, why is this is only occurring within me? Therefore, it's got to be something in me that needs to be realigned or corrected or whatever. So that I would always come back to yourself, which is very hard, but it also then means that it's very easy to know where you need to be looking. You're always being shown where you need to look because
Exactly.
the earth is, as we all know, the earth is a school, and we're always being shown where we're not hitting the right grades.
Yeah. Well, we talk quite a lot about the centre, don't we? And if you're finding everybody being annoying and cold and irritating you, you're out of the center. They're wherever they are is irrelevant. You're no longer in the center. And it's easy to recognize, if you are feeling this hurt coming in from everywhere, then you're the one that's out of the center. And if you're blaming them, and if you're angry with them or upset with them or jealous of them or all the lower emotion kind of things, that's a sign to you, as you're saying, life is a school, and that is the sign to you that you're not no longer in that calm, peaceful center. And once you're out of it, you're getting buffeted around. You find it harder to think clearly. You find it harder to be loving and kind, and so you have to fight your way back into that center, which isn't always easy, but it's the reality of the situation. Sometimes time itself will do it, but it's better if you can you know, grab the bull by the horns and get back in the center yourself, and
Hmm.
treat it almost like we do with distractions in meditation. Yeah, thank you. I'm out the center. Let's go back in. You're driving down the road.
Reminding you,
Sorry?
it's reminding you that you're out of center. It's pointing
Exactly,
to you and
yeah.
explain. Yeah.
And as soon as you notice it, though, that's when you can do something about it. Until you notice it, until you recognize that I'm out of the center. No, you're not blaming yourself. You're just noticing that I've been moved from this point of peace to this point of upset. And then I can do something about it. When I recognize that I'm there, I can pull myself back in. But until you recognize it, until you actually are honest enough to go, I'm out of the center, you're just going to be blasted around and get upset and grumpy.
It's very empowering, isn't it? Because
Yes, it is. Yeah.
then all of the power is put in your hands. Rather
Yes.
than saying, "Oh, this problem out there that I can't do anything about." You bring it always back to yourself, which is gives you full control and
Yes.
full ability. And the other way that I like to look at these ways that we sometimes feel is rather than I feel angry or I feel upset by this person, I prefer to look at it as I'm feeling the influence of anger. I'm
Yeah.
feeling the influence
Then
of
you
these
create a
things because
separation.
yeah, this way that you start to recognize that it is quite literally the thing that you're feeling is influencing you. It's not you. It is you if you then embody it and act upon it and act in
Yeah.
alignment with its nature, then you become the anger. But if you can create that space and that composure, which meditation is absolute magic for being able to get better at,
Well, it's
that
teaching you how to
awareness.
do it, isn't it? When we
Yeah.
say take it out of the shrine room into life, this is what you mean. Exactly
Mm.
this. It's not necessarily you're not going to walk around with a mudra all day going on.
Why not?
This is what we mean. Yeah, we could do. Yeah. What we're talking about is the same thing, recognizing the distractions, recognizing the thing that's driving you away, and being in the moment, seeing it. That's life meditation. That's moving and living.
Yeah. Daily meditation. Yeah. Yeah. It's powerful.
It is.
Another question I have from at B-side Art Shop. They said, after a spiritual awakening and burnout, how do I navigate feeling lost when my past no longer defines me and everything feels relative?
Well, I'm intrigued by this question because I'm not quite sure what they mean by burnout after a spiritual awakening. I guess everybody's awakening is different. Um,
Yeah.
I don't remember feeling burnt out. I remember feeling excited and exhilarated and scared
Hmm.
a bit, but I didn't feel burnt out. I didn't feel like I had no energy or anything like that. I just felt, but I guess but everybody's different, aren't they? Maybe some people do. But how you navigate that feeling when it says when your past no longer defines you. The thing I would say is the awakening is just one moment in the whole track of your life, and it's a noticeable moment. Yeah, it's a noticeable moment. But that doesn't mean that all the rest of the moments before then weren't important because they were. They brought you to this whatever awakening you had, because there's lots of different kinds of awakenings as well. And they're constant, aren't they? Really, they're constant going on. You're always realizing new things and growing. But for most people, I suppose that they have a point where they think, yeah, that was it. And I get that. I do get that.
Like you're chopping down a tree, isn't it? It's like every little blow is a step
Yeah,
towards it, but you
yeah,
probably would only remember when the tree falls down and it's like, oh, that
yeah.
big shift.
Exactly,
But all of
exactly.
those moments before, as you say,
So
building up. As the saying goes, birds of a feather flock together. It's one of the reasons why I decided to create my online school a year and a half ago, which now has over 600 students inside. And the primary purpose of the school is to help students on an ongoing basis to grow deeper, to grow closer to the divine, and to understand meditation more deeply. I teach lots of different methods of meditation. We have ongoing programs such as Grow Closer to the Divine in 4 weeks, Meditation Accountability Months. There's a lively, active community. So it's an amazing, amazing place to learn and grow with a group of people who are also on the same path as you. If you're finding that there aren't many people around you who you can talk to about these types of things, or even if you're not necessarily interested in talking to other people, but you just want to have a glimpse of the interests that other people have, I know some people prefer to sit in the shadows and just be a silent observer. The school is an amazing place for this. So, if you're interested in learning more about meditation, understanding some of the formalities, trying different techniques, and having ongoing support with your spiritual path, then this is a great place for you. I'll leave a link in the description below. Feel free to check it out. On a separate note, my dad has also released a book. It's called The Quiet Labor, a workbook for spiritual progress. You can get it on Amazon. I'll also leave a link to that down in the description below. And as the name suggests, it's a workbook that you can follow to learn more techniques and to get more formality with your practice. It's a great resource and I would highly recommend you check it out. It coincides very nicely with my school as well. But anyway, back to the episode.
your past still defines you because it was that that brought you to this point, but you are different now. Well, are you? There's that old saying, isn't there? In the Buddhist thing, it says before enlightenment. I know we're not talking about enlightenment, but it's a similar thing. Before enlightenment, chop wood, carry water. After enlightenment, chop wood, carry water. So you just carry on. You carry on, but now you're seeing life differently. You're interpreting life differently because your consciousness has raised a little bit, and what that should do for you is give you inspiration to want more of that. To
Mhm.
keep that right up. I think anyway. I mean,
Tricky question. It's kind of an
it is.
ambiguous question. It's not pinpointed onto a particular aspect of their awakening, I would say. But I
Mm,
think with the burnout thing, I've seen it with others. Like you, I didn't have a burnout, but I know that people have big Kundalini experiences, and that
mhm,
creates them to experience exhaustion for quite a while. And I wonder whether it's that they've felt, whether they've had a
possibly.
big
Yeah.
awakening, a
Yeah.
lot of
Probably.
energy has been released, and they've felt this sense of exhaustion or burnout, and that perhaps is what they're talking about. Which, if that is the case, it is just the process of time for you to adjust to this new vibration that you're now at. effectively.
Mm.
Everything's got to recalibrate. So it's a process of time and acceptance. And I bring a lot of things back to the virtues, to be quite honest. The virtues that are encouraged are amazing for keeping you centered.
Yeah.
If
Yeah, they
you
are.
and if you're not sure on what I mean by the virtues, I mean you can go on, look in the Bhagavad Gita if you want a list, and I believe there's 26 virtues. I think Yogananda calls them virtues that make man godlike.
Mhm.
And they're all amazing characteristics that if you actually look at them and think, if I lived by every single one of those, if I in each decision, in each moment of my life looked at those and said,
Before you
am I
decided.
in
Yeah,
alignment with each of these things here?
yeah.
You wouldn't go far wrong. And I think that if at any time in life when you look into you needing help with decisions to make, ways to live, they can be a great touchstone of, am I in alignment with these things? Oh no, I'm being a bit selfish. Oh no, I'm being a bit impatient. Oh no, I'm out of balance. All of the virtues tell you where to be. Look at the virtues, look at the decisions you want to make, see if they're closely aligned, and that can help.
Yeah, very true. Yeah, very true. We have the 9 virtues in the Zen Aikido, and, they're they're great they're great guides as well, and sometimes I'll just pick one of them and, and just be really aware of it all day. And it's quite interesting because the virtues are humanity, humility, honor, courtesy, courage, kindness, knowledge, wisdom, and loyalty. And I might just pick courage one day. And courage might just be something like being brave enough to go over and drop a quid in the bowl of a guy who's begging,
Mm,
or, or maybe tell somebody that you're not happy with the way they're treating you. Just being honest, and it's so when you actually pick one virtue just for a day and just follow it, and if you can be aware of the others, that's great as well. But
yeah.
it is
It's
powerful.
hugely powerful, isn't it?
Yeah, it is. It is. Yeah. I would say the other thing is with the spiritual awakening and the feeling lost and the burnout and everything, that can be a bit of an ego reaction because it scares the ego when things like this happen. It does. There's a kickback. We always talk about an ego kickback when something happens spiritually, and they do happen. It shape shifts, moves into a different direction, comes at you from a different angle. And one of the, your ego has an enormous amount of power over you, and it can make you feel weak or tired in the same way it can make you feel empowered and arrogant. And, it can do that. It can work both ways. Same way in meditation, sometimes you're meditating a lot. Most people have a problem with the mind running around all the while, but then it's amazing that quite often when they stop that, so all of a sudden they're falling asleep. The
Yeah.
ego just gone the other way. It's gone straight down to right. We'll slow everything down then. So there
The
could be a bit of ego
coherent.
reaction involved in that as well. It's worth being aware of that and maybe just, trying to push through it.
Almost certainly, because it's like what has been removed? What feels lost? What feels like it's missing something, or that it's, you know, what feels that way? It's normally the part of you that you're starting to let go of, or part of
Exactly.
you that is being now reduced somewhat in size and strength, and it's like, hang on a minute, I need to
I've
get
lost
back in
something
here.
there.
I
Yeah,
think any change in life can feel like that. You move house, if you've lived in a house for 10 years or something, and it's going to feel a little strange initially. So a lot of it's just a transition. And it, again, the virtues, patience, all of these different things help.
that's not one of my virtues. It's not the ones I use.
But what happens if you need that virtue? You look through your nine and scrunch it up and over the shoulder.
I explicitly don't need it because
Cherry picked
I
virtues
cherry pick virtues, yeah, that suit me perfectly.
on the day. No, I don't need that one today.
Yeah, cool.
Yeah, the next question is, what should I do when I've stopped merely surviving but have never had the chance to truly dream? I'm assuming that this is related to perhaps whether this is perhaps like financial
They've
aspect
reached a
of life.
financial point and they've worked.
Yeah.
It sounds like they've worked hard and they've reached a point in their life where, okay, I'm okay financially now, but what do I do now? Is
Mm,
kind of thing. Because where it says I've never had the chance to truly dream, I was surprised about that because I think everybody, in some ways aspires to something, don't they? They dream of something. But,
How
if
do you
if the financial side is good and the pressure's off, brilliant, but that won't change the core of you really. Money can be problematic too. You know, having money can be difficult for people who aren't used to having it. So that can be an issue. Some people work all their lives, get to the point where they can retire because they've got enough money, and then, you know, they're lost. They're absolutely lost. What I would say is what you should do now then is something to do with self development. And whether that is spiritual self development or personal self development, that's the way to go, because anything else is just stuff. It's just material things. And, but self development then is the key, I think, really to go into. And, what do you want to do is the question. The question is, what do you want to do really?
that's the
Not
key
everybody.
question.
Sorry.
I say that's the key question, isn't it?
Yeah. What do you want to do? And then decide what is really important to you and why, and then do it. Do it. If you want to learn to fly a plane, because that's something you've wanted to do since you were a kid, there's nothing wrong with that. Go and do it. You'll learn things while you're doing that anyway. You'll learn tons of things about yourself, and you'll overcome a lot of things. And so it's the key question, I think, there is, what do you want? What is it you want to do? If you
Mm.
haven't had a chance to dream, then maybe sit back for a little bit and start to dream, start to think about what you'd like to be and what you'd like to do.
Yeah. Yeah. Take yourself somewhere quiet, sit in a not a formal meditation, but in
Mm.
that sort of environment and make
Drama.
yourself quiet inside and ask yourself, what do I actually want? What is it that I want? Where do I want to be? And I remember Deus years and years back, actually, when I was in the much prior to setting up the school and things like that. And I was telling him about my aspirations for wanting to teach more people. And he said, blueprint your mind for success,
Of it.
which I loved. And it's so simple. So simple. Well, if you do it, it's simple. But it's amazing how impactful that is to actually start to formulate in your mind clear picture of where you want to be or what you want to do,
Mhm.
because it gives you that's aspiration, isn't it? That you then
Absolutely.
and it
Absolutely.
does come true if you do formulate something in your mind that you genuinely want and you work towards it, you work
Nothing
hard
can stop you.
towards it.
Nothing
It
can stop you
no,
if you really want to do it. Yeah, and that's why that first question is key. What do you want to do? Because if you don't want to do it, if it's somebody else's dream or if it's somebody else's inspiration or an idea that they've passed on to you, it won't have the same impetus from inside. But whatever it is you want to do, yeah. Yeah, that's it. Hold that picture in your mind and hold it every day and write up a plan and
that's the other thing is that we're always considering with one ear, if you like, what other people would expect us to do and
Mhm.
making a decision based partly on what that expectation is. And I think it's, again, very empowering to be totally honest with yourself and let go of things that you might be being influenced by others. Or there's some aspect of you that thinks, what would this other person want me to do? Or how would I look in front of this person? Try to let go of all of that and just come back purely to actually what is it that I would like to do. If I wasn't influenced by anyone else, if no one else had any input or thought about it, what would I want to do then? And do it based on that.
Yeah, yeah, that's them solved. They've just got to go out and do it now.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. So I hope the comment next week needs to be some form of progress along this path of your dream now. I want to
Yeah,
see some action plan,
yeah,
some
it should be
steps.
sorted. You got a week. I want to be the Dalai Lama. You got a week.
Yeah.
Go and get your robes. Make it real.
Ben and Pete said it could happen, so it's gotta be true. And then the other question was, how can I find direction, purpose, and fulfillment in the vastness of this new reality?
So I'm presuming this is after an awakening, is it?
Same person that had the awakening, yeah. How do they
Okay.
find direction now?
Well, understand that you're in a slightly new arena in the terms of your perception of it. So that's the big thing, And there are still a lot of things that are going to be beyond what you know now. You've had an awakening. You understand some new stuff, but the same drives, for purpose and fulfillment are still there. So go out and find the new things, find those next things that are waiting for you. That's the purpose, and the fulfillment is achieving them, I guess, unless there's something else that comes up inside you after this awakening that creates a different thing you want fulfilled, which it might do. It might do.
How hard were you resisting promoting your book then? Well, I've got something for you.
Yeah, I'm keeping it down. Well,
Working on humility this week, are you?
yeah, I am. Yeah, it makes a change, doesn't it? Um, I would also say, with this is when you talk about finding purpose and fulfillment in the vastness of this new reality, just keep it simple. Just keep it simple because Deus has said to us many times, everything that's going on around you is a miracle. And, so keep it simple. Just see what's happening around you while you stabilize, while you're in this new position, and just look at it with different eyes. See the bubbles in the water and recognize wow, that simple thing's amazing. We talk about your hand, look at your hand. It's amazing. Just keep it really simple. Don't try and go for don't bring the mind in and let the mind try and just look at what's going on around you. Look at your kids, look at your pets, and get some gratitude going. And like I say, just keep it really simple. Start to experience everything around you and feel it and see it and find fulfillment in that. And I know that sounds so hippie twee, but it's so true. It is so true. We miss most of what's going on around us because we're thinking about other things. We're thinking about fulfillment.
Placing our fulfillment in something in the future.
Yeah, just be happy now. Just be happy with what's around you, and and what you're doing.
Can you
And
explain the hand thing to people that won't have become aren't aware of that hand
it's
gratitude?
in my book, Ben. No, it's just a really simple exercise of contemplation that our teacher gave to me once, and he just said to me one day. He used to he gives us tasks, doesn't he? He gives us tasks all the while, and he said when you get up in the morning, just get out of bed, sit in the side of the bed, and just have a look at your hand, and just consider it. Consider this thing that all these amazing muscles that work brilliantly that, robots find almost impossible to duplicate. And, it's flesh and bone and it's all this, and there's energy in there. And there's this, what would life be like without it? And you start to really immerse yourself in it and think about the hand. And then after a while, you start to realize that actually, although it is you, it isn't you as well. And that was kind of an interesting thing that came out of that, as well as the gratitude for having it. It was like, okay, well, this isn't me really. It is a bit of me, but it's not, it's not the core of me. If that makes
That's
any
a big
sense.
one, isn't it?
Mm,
I
yeah,
like when you said on a different conversation that we had, where it's kind of leading on from that a little bit, but where do I start and where do I finish?
yeah.
And
That was
using that contemplation, I know it's a bit broader than using, what we're talking about here, but it just made me think of that.
yeah. It's the same thing. It's and I've seen other people talk about this as well. But where do I start? Where do I finish? When I drink some water? When does it become me? When I breathe out, when does that oxygen stop being me? When a nail falls off, when I shout, where does the sound stop being me? And it's when you start to go into it, it's very hard to find the real you
Mm.
because everything is not it's not as you go in.
Yeah, very powerful contemplation. But I think you're right. If you've had some sort of awakening and you feel like you've expanded and you feel like you've got more possibilities, then we've spoken about how if there is something that you're convinced is what you would like to achieve, this is how you can do it. You can contemplate, you can get clarity, you can perhaps create a blueprint and just work towards it and allow it to unfold. But also, as Sai Baba often says, place a limit on your desires. And I think it's always helpful to moderate these types of feelings to some extent and not it's a seed that's been planted, and that seed can easily expand into, a jungle of different desires, and all of your peace and fulfillment has now been placed in something ahead of you again. And it's that fine balance, isn't it, of
It
being,
is.
as you say, living in the moment, being grateful, and finding lots of micro gratitude, looking at all of the smaller things, bring the gratitude right down to the smallest possible things you can think of, and being in the moment and being as grateful as you can, but also having that foot in, if there is something that you're working towards, actually working towards it. Because I've noticed that one area of confusion that comes up a lot in spiritual spaces is, how do I balance, if the person has a sort of real strong belief in God or the divine, how do I balance this sort of surrender to the divine in terms of your pursuits? I'm going to surrender to the divine and let the divine unravel things as the divine wants to. How do you balance that kind of mentality with a mentality of like striving personally? And I don't know if you've thought about this before and given this any thought. Oh, you're useless then. But it's an interesting one. I think I've had more time recently to contemplate it, just because I've seen other people asking these types of things. People have mentioned it to me. One thing that I've noticed, which I've come to I think my belief now around it is that it's a yin yang balance that needs to be had, in
I'd
as much
agree.
as it's up to us to act in the relative world. If we're hungry, it's no good sitting here and surrendering to the divine to fulfill that hunger. You're going to have to go over and make yourself some food. We're in the world of action. And I think the same applies for dreams, understanding our purpose. It can be a mistake to expect all of that to just fall at your lap without having to put in.
Well, it's not going to, is it? You know,
No.
you have to put in to get out. Yeah, that's the simple first law, really. Put in and you get, and something will come back. It's similar to karma. So yeah, it's not going to come to you without any effort. But you can, going back to what you were talking about earlier, you can offer it up as you're doing it.
Yeah.
You can kind of link in that way, so there's a connection there,
Hmm.
and that's a powerful way to get inspiration sometimes as well when you're working on a project or something. If you offer it up and ask for help with it, then it comes. It does tend to come.
And then it becomes quite beautiful, because it becomes something that you're almost doing with the divine in a way.
Yeah, yeah,
You're acting, and as you're doing it beforehand, you may pray and ask for some help and guidance, and then if what you're working towards starts to manifest, you're offering that to the divine, and then the whole process is like the vehicle that's doing the thing. It becomes more of a, you know process of the divine working through you, or you offering to the divine. It's like a yin yang again,
yeah,
isn't it?
yeah, exactly.
It's that kind of balance.
Absolutely right.
Well, we've reached the end of the questions.
It's a good place to
So,
stop, probably.
yeah, great
Yeah,
place to stop. I wanted to, before we wrap things up, just encourage anyone that's still watching that each week when we do these podcasts, we're basically just going to answer the questions of the viewers. So if you have questions, if anything has come up for you in this conversation, or if you have something on your mind that you need a bit of help with or guidance with, leave your questions down in the comments section below, and we're going to go through them throughout the week. And then next week, when we meet up, we can then talk about and discuss any questions that might have popped up. So if you'd be able to do that, that would be amazing. We'll wrap things up there. Thanks. Good to see you, Dad.
good to see you too. Have a lovely
We'll
time in Canada, and
shall do. We'll
speak to you
catch up
next week.
soon. In a bit. Bye.